Everything starts somewhere. Before I was planting diffusers in Siege, before I was chasing ghosts in Fear, I competed against the most violent and skilled warriors in known space in a game called Unreal Tournament. 20 years ago, Unreal Tournament, or UT99 as it's commonly referred to, was released, developed by Epic Games and Digital Extremes. We all have games we're nostalgic about, but I believe that beneath the surface there's more to our feelings for those games. This is my nostalgia game, and today I'd like to tell you about my realization that Unreal Tournament was ground zero for every view I hold on games and what they mean to me. Unreal Tournament was my first shooter ever, and it taught me everything. I learned how to move, I learned how to predict enemy actions, I learned how to be creative, because it was a game where the skill gap was widened by how your weapons controlled the space around you. For the first time, I had game sense. I knew where enemies would be before I saw them. I knew that if I fired right there was a guy about to turn the corner. It was me against the world, and as long as I could move and as long as I could shoot, the world would lose. Deathmatch was my life for a while, and as much as I loved it, I found myself playing more and more Capture the Flag, and eventually Assault. I thought as a kid it was the maps that drew me into those modes. Facing worlds still stuns me to this day, but it was something much deeper than that. I didn't understand it at the time, but the objective-based nature of CTF, Assault, and even Domination were appealing to me on a fundamental level in a way that Deathmatch couldn't. In Capture the Flag, I had teammates. I wasn't alone in the fight anymore. Everyone had a role to play, and it was up to me to lead them. What I do today in Rainbow Six Siege as an in-game leader, I was doing an Unreal Tournament via the orders menu. If I needed teammates to come with me into the enemy team's base's backup, I got them. If I wanted extra reinforcements on the flag or the entire team to make one final push onto blue base, we did it. What I really liked doing was sending my teammates to get the flag and then providing cover as we ran back to capture. I loved the company of it. I wasn't an individual, I was part of a unit and there was a goal we were all working towards. CTF, Assault, and Dom all offered something different in this regard, and the amount of maps per mode that came with the game kept me playing practice sessions until I started to want something more. And that's when I took my first step into the world of modding. It started out with custom maps. Those immediately struck a chord with me because it felt like I was in new worlds. I had played the game's original maps for so long that I wanted new environments. I had a soft spot for maps that would reimagine the original maps but put an interesting twist on them. Then it was skins. I couldn't see myself in the game, but I could see my teammates, and giving them alternate looks was cool. There was a role-playing aspect to this. The game had minimal story, so I could project anything I wanted onto it, especially with custom skins that had no prior attachment to the game. After that, it was weapons. The arsenal I'd been using since I started to play was reliable, but stagnant. I started downloading weapon mods, and I was exposed to new ways to play the game, and as importantly, new visual elements that I had never seen in any game before. Unreal Tournament ran on Unreal Engine 1, but modders had worked diligently on adding features to the engine and pushing it as far as it could go. Nali Weapons 3 was hands down my favorite weapon mod, not just because of the amazing custom models or the new weapon types, but because of how the weapons interacted with the environment. I'll never forget using the Ultima Protoss and seeing how the weapon's charge was so powerful that it would rip chunks of the wall and floor around it, and how insane it was when the nuke hit and it felt like the end of the world as the explosion grew and grew, destroying the world as it did. This mod changed things for me. It redefined what was possible in this world I had grown so accustomed to. Everything was static before. The engine didn't have the capacity to grow ice chunks out of the floor, spawn cyborg drones that would follow you, or anything close to that. It wouldn't even displace the water if you shot it. Until Nali Weapons 3. It was almost like playing a new game. It should be no surprise that the next area of mods I moved on to were custom game modes. They combined every aspect of modding that I had already experienced and added in a new rule set and new objectives. I played a lot of new modes, like multi-team CTF and ZombieKGrounds, and it wasn't long before I found a mod in this vein that required an entire overhaul of the game, or better put, a conversion. The first total conversion mod I ever played was called Unreal Badlands. It was set in the Wild West, and it was great. It added weapons, models, maps, and modes like Most Wanted, which was a sort of combination of Kill Confirmed and Grind from Call of Duty. Admittedly, I spent most of my time playing CTF in this mod. It was just way too fun. I was removed from Unreal Tournament for the first time, but it didn't bother me because Badlands retained all of the game's core mechanics and added in so many things. It wasn't long after that I stumbled onto what I believe to be the best game mode ever made for Unreal Tournament, called Monster Hunt. While every mod I had played up till then had incorporated new elements, Monster Hunt was the first to incorporate the old. In Monster Hunt, you and a team of characters went through a level hunting monsters. The monsters were, of course, the enemies from the first Unreal game, which I knew little about at that point. Monster Hunt was different than the other custom game modes I had played. It felt like it could have shipped with the original game. It was that well designed. Levels did deviate from the arena architecture of the original maps, however. They had multiple objectives like assault maps, but they also had obstacles, diverging paths, and environmental storytelling. I never played Monster Hunt just to kill monsters. I played it to immerse myself in the mission the world provided. Monster Hunt exposed me to the concept of exploration, and I was never the same again. For all this time, I had been playing multiplayer game modes. It was incredible fun, but the more mods I played, the more I realized that something was missing. I knew Unreal Tournament was a sequel of sorts, or at the very least, it wasn't the first game in the franchise. There was another. Unreal was released a year before Unreal Tournament and focused on single player. I remember procrastinating before playing this game, but I don't remember why. I think I was still very attached to UT, but because Unreal was so familiar, I eventually gave in and began a beautiful journey. Unreal was my first single-player FPS. I was Prisoner 849, and my transport ship, of which I was a prisoner on, had crash-landed on the planet of Pali. Pali was home to the Nali, and as I learned very early on, the peaceful Nali had been enslaved by a race called the Scar. The Scar weren't from Pali, but they were interested in the planet's teridium, a mineral used for creating weapons. In Unreal, I was the alien. I was in a place I didn't know, but it felt like I was there. Pali had a brilliant atmosphere. You could hear the birds in the sky and the water crashing from all the waterfalls. Pali had wildlife. It had towns and churches and temples. They weren't like ours, but they were lived in. The immersion only got deeper when I pulled out my universal translator and began reading inscriptions on walls. The Nali had gods like Xidia and Vandora, which made it all the worse that their culture was being destroyed by the Scar. The only good Scar was a dead Scar, and they were an amazing enemy to face as I made my way through Pali. Unreal is also where I really started paying attention to music in games. Unreal Tournament was full of incredible tracks, and Unreal was done by the same people. It cemented Alexander Brandon and Mikhail Vandenbos as two of my favorite composers. The music just understood the world in a way that I can only compare to how Akira Yamaoka's music understands Silent Hill. The music was whatever the atmosphere needed it to be. It was exotic, it was futuristic, it was perfect. Everything came together in this game, and when it was time to leave, I didn't want to go. I was too enamored by the environment, and what a fun time I had getting to the Scar Queen. But she fell nonetheless, and I had my ticket off this wild ride. So much has happened, but little has changed. It reads in the lower left corner of the ending sequence. While that was true for Prisoner 849, it wasn't for me. I started out playing an entirely different game, yet I found myself playing this one and having had the time of my life exploring an alien planet. I wanted more immediately, and I got it. Unreal had an expansion pack called Return to Pali where, you guessed it, you return to Pali. It was more Unreal, but I didn't want it any other way. It introduced voice acting, new weapons, new enemies, and new levels. But playing it was bittersweet. I was back on Pali, but I knew I would get off the planet again somehow, and I did. I thought my adventures on Pali were over. They most certainly weren't. See, when I started playing Unreal Tournament, it was 10 years after the game had been released. Both Unreal and Unreal Tournament shipped with Unreal Editor and Unreal Script, the scripting language for the engine. This is what allowed for the amount of extensive modding seen in mods like Nali Weapons 3, but people had also used these resources to make custom levels and entire campaigns. And over the course of 10 years, there were enough of these custom levels to last a lifetime. Pali was back on the menu. I dove in headfirst with these campaigns. The first I played was called Deja Vu, Gryphon Revisited. I was Juan Brie, and I was tasked with recovering an artifact from Pali many years after the events of Unreal. The level of quality of this mod was astonishing. It recreated the atmosphere of the original game while adding its own touches. This was good enough to be an expansion pack, and so were the other mod campaigns I played after this, like Illhaven Saga, Hexephet, and Operation Pali. Now, the most ambitious of these was called Xidia Gold. What set it apart from all the others was its custom HUD, its custom weapons, new music, voice acting, character interactions, and its story. Xidia did not take place on Pali. It had two campaigns, both taking place on the planet Xidia. In Xidia, The Incident, I was Jones, a tough marine sent to the planet to investigate why an outpost had gone radio silent. In Xidia, The Escape, I was Spencer, a dork who had to escape the outpost. Mods like this were classified by which game they could run on. Some mod levels could run fine on Unreal, but other mods needed Unreal Tournament's advanced version of Unreal Engine 1. Xidia was obviously one of these. It featured many technical enhancements which made its presentation so transcendent of the games it was a mod for. Xidia was the first of two mods I played which blurred the line between everything I had played up till that point and something else. I didn't know what that was yet, but Xidia helped get me closer and would continue to after I finished it. Xidia was not just ambitious because of what it did. It was ambitious because of what it would do. Xidia had a sequel, and it is my favorite mod of all time. Its name is 7 Bullets. I was Jones, again, the hardened marine that had survived the Xidia incident, and I was sent to a planet called Pali to recover information from a ship that had crashed there 18 years ago. 7 Bullets was everything I could have ever asked for. I was back on Pali, but it was different. Older, and I was being hunted, not just by Scar, not just by the humans that remained on the planet after Prisoner 849 escaped, but by a ghost. Xidia was a landmark achievement for its additions to modding. 7 Bullets did even more. 7 Bullets had a soundtrack, cutscenes, dialogue, subplots, and the way it tied in elements from both Unreal and Unreal Tournament is still one of a kind to this day. Jones was also no longer a voiceless protagonist. He spoke and delivered a part of his past at the end of every level.
7 bullets I'll give to God when I go to heaven, when he asks me to answer for my sins. 7 bullets that have penetrated my top-of-the-line USM Kevlar body armor. 7 bullets it took to bring down a grenade-wielding fanatic on my mission to Hadley 26. He was 12 years old.
7 Bullets was not a mod. It was its own game. And that's what I had been searching for. I had been playing Unreal Tournament for so long that what I wanted to play was another game. 7 Bullets was the perfect swan song for what had been some of the funnest years of my life. It wasn't long after that I got a new PC that could play more graphically demanding games, and the rest, as they say, is history. Looking back on Unreal Tournament, it created and fostered every belief that I have towards games today. There are the more obvious things it showed me, like how I think weapons should work or how levels should be designed, but it also taught me things I wouldn't understand until I was older. I'm a Siege player, and in my latest video, I argued that one of the reasons the game is so incredible is because of the way it integrates its DLC that extends its already complex learning curve. I thought Siege was the first time I had seen something like this, and it wasn't. The way I experienced modding in Unreal Tournament was essentially the same thing. Since I was drip-fed advancements to the engine as I played more mods after playing so much of the original game, that created my understanding that new content in a game would keep you playing it because it lengthens the learning curve and keeps the player engaged. All of Siege's DLC could be described as official mods. I played Unreal Tournament for 5 years. The mods were what kept me going, similarly to how I return to Siege every season to check out the new operators and maps. Unreal Tournament even introduced me to my desire for single-player shooters. My appreciation for games like Fear and Titanfall 2 was born on the day I stepped off the Vortex Rikers. I didn't know it back then, but that was also the day games changed for me. I stopped looking at games as things I just played and started seeing them as things I experienced. I wasn't playing as Prisoner 849, I was Prisoner 849. Since Unreal, I've definitely gained a few names. There were a couple of multiplayer games I fell in love with since Unreal Tournament 2. But it's only now that I realize that so much has happened, but little has changed. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to support more content like this, you can head on over to patreon.com/dx and become a patron. A big thank you to Ann Peck, Darren Kimball, Eddie Meltzer, Eternash, Ethos, Final Fash, Gidmodo, Hyserian Blade, HGovHF888, JCC Gamer, Kid Frost, Lolwell and Teapot, Mekai Lawrence, Nico Randall, Psycho Render, Rennie Pade, Santiago Selly, and Vera. Thank you for supporting the content, and thank you for supporting the vision.